Hi there boys and girls, it's Alex for PokerDiaries.net. Today we're gonna make a video about Holdem Manager and how to use stats. So you can use other software, you can use Poker Tracker or other software that can handle stats. So before you start to watch this video, you need to know how to interpret which stat, what is a VPIP, what is a PFR, what is a continuation bet, what is a fold to continuation bet. If you don't know this stuff, you can check my article. I will put it in the description, where I made already a small article about all the stats and how to use them. Also how to use Equilab, how to understand the ranges, and all the other important stuff about that. So now we can try to analyze a few of my hands that I played recently, maybe in last 10 days. We're gonna watch them closely and see how I use the stats to make best possible solutions I can. So let's try with this first hand. So on this hand here I have 6-7 of clubs and of diamonds in the middle position, and here you can see my HUD I'm using. But since you're not familiar with it, I will try to use default HUD. So default HUD looks like this. So on this one, we will have a VPIP on this first column here, and the VPIP for every position. Then PFR after that. Then next important one is free bet from every position and fold to free bet. And then we have a squeeze here, limp, and also we will see during the hand analysis some other also important ones. So let's go. Here we open 6-7 of diamonds on the middle position. I always open 3 big blinds from the middle position, and I got a call from the guy who is 14-9, so his VPIP is 48. And his PFR is 9, so he's a huge fish. He plays a lot of hands. He does not raise enough of hands. We don't have a big sample. We have only 47 hands on him, but it's enough to see that he's probably playing very passively. He's not folding enough, and he's probably calling with a lot of draws, with a lot of runners, a lot of top pairs, and so on. So let's see how the hand goes. Here we have a gut shot. We are waiting for 4. If we face any aggression, if he raises up here, or if he calls and we break on the turn, we will just give up. So we will not try to bluff a fish. We'll try to extract much value we can. When he checks, I will usually check his stat, fold to see bet. But since he only has, since I have only 47 hands with him, here I will just make a standard continuation bet of half of the pot without consulting some other stats. And he decides to call. So when he calls here, I can put him on a flush draw, I can put him on 2 random overcuts, here I can put him on a straight draw. So, and here we have a perfect card. We are very lucky to spike 4 and have nuts here. So if he has a 6, he will pay everything, but I think he will also pay everything with ace. So we will try to utilize here on his tendencies to not fold enough. So since I made assumption that he will not fold an ace or a 6 here, I will just try to bet a lot, to bet bigger than I would against the regular. So if I would bet 2.8 into 2.8, so full size of the pot against the regular, he will probably call me maybe with an ace, but on the river he will fold for sure. But since this guy is pretty bad, I try to overbet here. I bet 5 euros into 2.8 euros, and he calls us. And when he breaks the river, we still have the nuts here, and I just made a big overbet here, 18 euros into 12 euros, and he paid us off. So On this hand, we just got lucky to get this good turn card, but then we did not lose any value. We did not bet small because this guy called us anyway. So since he's very passive and not folding enough, it's a good enough reason to barrel big and to take all his stack. Let's look at the next hand. So this next one, we have aces. We are against the guy who is 57-41. So he's obviously raising a lot, playing a lot of hands. He's pretty aggressive, so he's not folding enough to free bet. So he opens from the UTG, and we're on the button. Let's see how much is he opening from the UTG. From UTG, he's opening 60% of hands, so he's opening a lot. And let's see how much is he folding to a free bet. So on the early position, he's folding only 31% to a free bet. So if he has anything decent, he will call. So this is the reason we are happy to play this this hand against him, especially in position. And this is a very dry board, so there are not many draws, maybe 5-6 or maybe ace-5, but not many draws at all. So we are hoping that he has some maybe 7s, 8s, 9s, 10s, or maybe a queen. So when he checks, let's see how much is he folding to a continuation bet. So on the flop, he is folding to a continuation bet. Here we have two columns. One is in position and one is out of position. Since he's out of position, here he is folding to a c bet 45% of the time, and he's raising c bet 22% of the time. So we are hoping to get a raise here. That's the reason I'm not betting big. I'm not betting very big on such a dry board, because I'm hoping to get some call or maybe a raise. So here I'm betting around half of the pot, and he calls. So when he calls, I'm pretty certain he does not have any total air hand, like maybe 7-8 or something like that. So he at least has an ace high, or some runner draw with maybe king jack, king 10, maybe king 10 of hearts, king jack of clubs, something like that, when he has some runners, or he has a queen. So on this this card, let's see how much is he folding on a c bet on the turn. So when we go to the turn pop-up, we have fold to c bet on the turn, out of position. So it's a small sample, it's only 5 hands played in this situation, but he folded only 20% of the time. So if he has anything, he gonna call here. So that's the reason I'm opting for a little larger c bet on the turn, so I can shove any river here. So even if the river is queen and he bets, I'm not certain that he has a queen, because he's playing a lot of hands and he's bluffing a lot. So that's the reason I'm shoving any river here. And this is obviously not a great card, because there is a runner hearts here. But if he has any queen like he has, he's gonna pay, I think, probably anything. So I just shove here on the river 16 euros into 18.7, and he pays off. So pretty good outcome. But it's important to check all the stats and get any extra information you can, and any better understanding of the opponents. So how are they reacting? How are they playing? These two hands were very simple ones for the start. Let's try with a slightly more complicated hand. So here we open 2 9s UTG. Actually, there is no player in the cutoff, so we are in the middle position here. We are not UTG, so we open 3 big blinds, and we get a call from a huge fish on the button. He's playing 89-11, so he's obviously calling a lot. I hope to catch a set against him, to probably stack him with some pair. But we also get the squeeze from the big blind. If you're not familiar with all the terms, what is a cold call, what is a free bet, what is a squeeze, I already told you, but I will say it once again. You can check all my explanations, what are which stat, and how to understand the stats. Check the link in the description. So let's continue with this hand. This guy is squeezing, but not to a really big size. So some normal size should be around 7 euros. So he opted for 5.5. So maybe he's having some weaker hands here also, but we cannot be 100% certain is he maybe using this sizing for all the hands, or is he maybe using smaller sizing with the weaker holdings. But one of the things that we can be certain is how much is he squeezing. So if we go to his stats, we can see that his squeeze is 8%. So since he's on a big blind, maybe it's slightly bigger, maybe it's something like 9 or 9.5, but we cannot be absolutely sure of that. But it's not huge. It's not like 15 or 16 or more, so we can profitably 4-bet here. But we are happy also to call, not to 4-bet, because we will keep the fish in the hand. So we can spike a 9 or have some small board where we can continue. So we call here, and fish also calls. So this is a pretty good outcome. We have a position on the regular, and we are also against the fish. So let's see what happens. Here's a do 6-3. We have an overpair to the board, but if Raymond 58 has aces, kings, or queens, or some other overpairs, he probably is stronger than us. So let's see how much is he c-betting. So he, on the flop, he's making c-bet out of position in the 56% of time. So in this default pop-up, there is no c-bet in the free bet pots, in the normal pot. So maybe he's c-betting slightly more in the free bet pots, or slightly less. We cannot be absolutely sure. But he does not have some total air, so he at least has ace king, maybe ace king of diamonds, so he can barrel on the next diamond, or maybe he has some other pairs if he continues. So he bets a half of the pot. I would expect him to bet slightly bigger, because there is a fish in the pot also. If he has a good hand, that's one of the reasons I'm happy to call here, but it's still not super big c-bet, so I can profitably raise. That's the reason I only call here. And the fish folds when he checks on the turn, and the turn breaks. So he's obviously not continuing here, but I'm not sure why. Let's see his tendencies on the turn. So we go to the turn pop-up, where we see how much he c-bets on the turn. So his c-bet out of position on the turn is 56% of time. So let's see how much he raises when he checks. We can see that here on the right. So he check folds 43% of time, but he check raises 88% of time. So some of the strongest hands he has, and maybe also some bluffs, but there are not many bluffs here that he can squeeze from big blind, then check raise here. Only hand he can check raise here is maybe ace queen of of diamonds, ace king of spades, but there are not many hands like this. Man, maybe he's check raising aces, so but he's also folding a lot. So if he checks, we're not very afraid that he will take us from the stronger hand if he check raises bluff. So he's probably doing this with some good equity or with a stronger overpass than we have. So when he checks, we opted to bet half of the pot, and he folds here, so this is a pretty good outcome. Let's go for the next hand. So here we have King Jack. We are on the bottom. There is a limp from the early position. This guy is 129. We have only 24 hands on him, but he played all 24 hands. So he's probably a really huge fish who is not folding at all. So of course we're gonna isolate him and try to play this pot in position. So we don't have enough stats to work all our way to pre-flop, flop, turn and river, but this basic stats, only VPIP and PFR, give us some good idea that he is not folding enough and probably playing with some runners. So here we have a really good hand. We have top two pairs. There are also some draws here, so we hope he will call with something. Here we bet slightly bigger because I'm hoping to get also some runner calls. Maybe it's from Queen 10, maybe from Ace 10, maybe from 10-9, from spades, from any pair. Or like in this situation, he has only ace high and runner diamonds. So he calls, and he actually catch a diamond draw, and also catch 5 for a gut shot. But of course I cannot not know that. I'm still hoping to get the call from random king, from jack, from spades, also from runner diamonds. This is the reason when he checks, I bet here pretty big over the pot. Now when I look at this hand again, maybe I could even go larger, something like maybe 7 or 7.5 euros, because I don't think he'll fold anything. I think he will, for that price, he will call the same amount of hands he's calling for 5. He calls, and he spikes an ace on the end. If I would be against some regular here, I would not bet this river, because he's probably either missed the spades, or he has ace jack, or maybe queen 10, or some stronger hand than me, or he is not folding, or he's folding to a bet. So that's the reason I would not bet this river against the regular, but against this guy I think it's a really easy bet, and I bet almost the whole pot, so everything he has, and he calls with an ace. So against the guys who are really passive, who are liking to call a lot, we should always give them bad odds to call, because they will call just anyway. We'll not try to bluff them, we'll not try to make some fancy moves on them, we'll just play really straightforward and extract much value as we can. And if we are against regulars or some semi-regular players, we'll try to play much more observant, much more tricky. Do not make some big overbets and big value bets unless they are calling a lot. Let's go for the next hand. So here we have an ace 7 of hearts. We are opening from middle position, and we have a guy who is 16-22 calling from big blind. So we don't have a lot of hands on him. We have only 111 hands, but it's enough to give us some rough idea what he is doing. And here we have a nuts flush draw, pretty strong hand. and he opts to donk into us. So when he donks, we are not sure how much is he donking. So if somebody is donking only maybe 1 or 3% of the time, that's usually a really strong hand. And many aggressive fish players are donking a lot. So we're gonna check how much is he donking. So here on the on his flop pop-up, we see his donk bet. So donk call is 0%. So he donked already 2 times, and when he got a re-raise, he folded both of the times. So he's obviously donking a lot for bluff. So that's the reason we will not raise here, because we want to get as much value from him as we can. So we will not take him off his hand. The only hand that is beating us here is maybe some ace 8, ace 10, maybe ace queen if he's not re-raising that pre-flop, but I think he's re-raising that pre-flop. So I think we are ahead here with the ace high, and if he is maybe having a lower flush draw, that's pretty good for us. There's a reason here I'm only calling, I'm not opting to re-raise him. And we got the perfect card on the turn. So we have a nuts flush draw. We are never folding here. We're just trying to see how we can get all the money in. When he bets on the turn, he bets the whole pot. So he's obviously representing the flush. So I'm hoping that he has a flush. If he has, it's weaker than mine. And if he does not have a flush, maybe he will also bluff a river. Since we are in position, we can also just call here and hope he will bet again on the river. He gets a 10 high flush on the river, he bets again. So we just call here. If we check all his stats, we see that he is really aggressive, that he is donking a lot and trying to bluff a lot. Also, one of the important stats that we will often check on the river is how much is a person bluffing on the river. Here we have river aggression. His river aggression is 50. That's much over the normal river aggression, around 25, 26. Some more aggressive players have river aggression maybe 30, 35, but 50 is pretty big. Even in this small sample, only over 100 hands, we can obviously see his tendencies that he wants to bluff a lot. That's the reason we play this hand so passively. Let's go for the next one. Here we have a 7-8 of diamonds. We open from the cutoff, since there are not 2 players here. And we got a free bet from the small blind. This guy on the small blind is a regular, he's a pretty good player, and he opted for a really small sizing. He's not even free betting to 1.9 or to 2 euros, he's only free betting to 1.6. Let's first see how much is he free betting from the small blind. So we are on the pre-flop up, we look at the free bet and see that he is free betting from the small blind 9.2. So against 9.2 we don't have direct odds with 7-8 diamonds, but we probably have some good implied odds, and we are in position, so we can I think play profitably hand against him in position. And also he's probably free betting a little more, since there are only 4 players at the table. So we opted for a call. And on the ace high board, he checks. So when the person check as a pre-flop raiser, he's either check calling, check folding, or check raising. So we should check his tendencies on the flop. And when we look at his flop tendencies, so on the flop, he skips c-bet, out of position, and check calls 42% of time, check raises 3% of time, and check folds 55% of time. So he is obviously folding more than enough here, so we can make a bet against his skip C bet, and he's check calling 42% of time. He's not raising it a lot, so I think he's raising here only with the strongest hands, not with many bluffs. There's a reason I'm not very afraid to make this C bet, and also there is no reason to make it really big, because if he's calling 42% of time, that means he's probably not making a C bet with hands like maybe 2 9s, 2 10s, or some other pairs. He's probably check calling them, and if he's a check raising, he probably has some monster draws or maybe some really big hands. But I think we don't have to make a really big bet here, since he is calling any bet with 2 10s and we don't beat 2 10s. So we can just make 1/3 of the pot bet here. That's what we do, and he folds. So that's obviously a pretty good outcome. And if I saw really different stats, somebody who is check raising a lot, somebody who is much more aggressive in this situation, I would just check back and hope to spike a dime on the turn. But since he's folding a lot and not check raising a lot, I think this is a pretty good play based on his stats. Let's look at the next hand. Here we have a raise from middle position, and guy free bets from the cutoff. So we don't have many hands in this guy. We played only 257 hands against him. He's playing 37-5, so he is really tight. He is raising only the strongest hands. He's probably not a very good player, and his free bet is really small. So pre-flop, his total free bet is 1.1%. 1.1% is only aces, kings, and queens. So if we have 2 jacks and we are against aces, kings, and queens, we are actually set mining. So it's the same if we have 2 jacks or 2 deuces here, since we are not good. We need to catch a jack to continue, and maybe somebody behind us is re-raising, so we don't want to set mine with 2 jacks, so we just fold here. This guy also calls, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with this fold, but like you will see, we would win a hand in the end because we would spike a jack on the turn. But I'm not trying to get lucky. I'm just trying to play better than my opponents. On the next hand, we have ace-5 of diamonds. We are on the big blind. There is open from the middle position, and the call. We also call here because we have really good odds of calling. We need to pay only 5 euros. Not 5, 0.5 euros to get 3.25 euros pot. So this is some pretty good odds. We are calling, and we are getting a perfect flop here. So we are hoping to call and get a diamond. So let's see how much is this guy c-betting. So he's c-betting more than half of the pot. So maybe he has some stronger hands in his range, or maybe he's always c-betting more than half of the pot. But I don't think he's always c-betting more than half of the pot, especially against 2 players with such a wet board. So he probably has at least a 10, and probably stronger hand than that. So let's see how much is he c-betting. So his c-bet on the flop is 58% of time. So he's not c-betting a lot. He probably has some good hand. And if we have a re-raise here, we would like to call here and spike a diamond. But if this guy re-raises, then we are out of hand, and we already lost 4.6 for no reason. So that's the reason I'm not even calling here, because I think the first guy has a pretty good hand. So he re-raises, and yeah, that's exactly what would happen. We would just lose 4.6 on the flop if we were not pretty sure that he was very strong on the flop. Let's look at the next one. Here we have a king queen, and there is two limps from the guy who is 87-12. So he's obviously a huge fish, and there is also a limp from the regular. So regular probably has some sets, maybe some set mining hands, some small pairs, and he's hoping to get lucky against the fish. So we try to isolate both of them and play in position. Then we have a min click free bet from the big blind. So this is not even a min free bet. Min free bet will be 2.4. So 2.2 is just a min click free bet, the lowest one he can make. So we obviously have a really good odds to call here, but this guy is free betting only 2.2% of time. So he is free betting only with aces, king, queens, and ace king. So we are not beating any of those hands. And if we catch a king or catch a queen, maybe we can lose some more money. So there's no reason to call this hand, even though we have really good odds. But based on his free bet stat, we can just fold here. Pretty simple one. Let's go for the next one. Here we have queen jack on the cutoff. We open here for 2.5 big blinds. There is a cold call from reg on the button, and we do not catch anything. And let's see how much is this guy folding to a free bet, to a continuation bet. Sorry, on the flop, this guy is folding to a c bet only 30% of time in position. So that's really low. So I don't think it's very profitable to continue barreling here. He would also raise 8% of time. So I think we can either check raise here or check fold. So we check. He bets 2.5, and we just fold here because he's not folding enough to check raise. I don't have this on the fold pop-up, but I have it in my personal HUD. So that's one of the stats I checked while I was playing this hand. How much is he folding to a check raise when I missed a c bet, and instead I do a check raise? He's not folding enough, and he's not folding enough to a continuation bet. So that's the reason we can just check fold here. Here we have an ace jack, UTG, be open to 3 big blinds. There is a call from a fish on the cutoff, and there is a free bet, actually a squeeze from regular on the small blind. So here we just fold, and let's see why we did that. Because this guy from a small blind, he has a squeeze of 8%. He's probably squeezing a little tighter because there is also a fish in the pot. So with the ace jack, we can 4-bet, or we can fold. So we will not like to call and play out of position against the fish, and also with the hand that is easily dominated against ace queen or ace king or aces or kings or queens. We can lose a lot, and we will probably not win enough big pot to have a reason to call. And let's see how much is he folding to 4-bet. So his fold to a 4-bet is 52% of time, so that's not big enough, so we can make a profitable 4-bet. Let's go for the next hand. So on this one we have the a7 of clubs on the button. We make a small open to min open to 2 big blinds, and we have a call from the regular on the big blind. We're only 3-handed, so we are probably slightly more loose than actually sorry, we are 4-handed. We are slightly more loose than if we were 6 candle. So here we catch pretty good hand. We have middle pair with the top kicker. We have runner flush, and maybe if we are not good, we can spike an ace or a 7. But in this situation, we can sometimes make a continuation bet, and sometimes we'll check back. Main reason to check back is if our opponent is raising a lot our c bet. So let's see how much is this opponent raising. So on the flop, he's falling to a c bet 42% of time out of position, but he's raising c bet 16% of time. So he's raising a lot. Everything over 9 or 10% raise on the flop is pretty big. So we will not try to bet here, because we don't want to get forced out of the hand, and we probably have a best hand here. So when he checks, we also will check back, and on the turn we're gonna see again what we should do. So he bets here. Let's see how much he bets on the turn against the missy bet. On the turn against the missy bet, on the turn against the missy bet, he bets 40% of time, so that's enough to justify a call on the turn here. But on the river, we have to check how much is he betting the river. So his river aggression is 21%, so he's really tight on the river. If he bets the river, he probably has it. So we will not try to call the river if he bets, and he bets here pretty big, so maybe 2/3 of the pot. So we can just hope fold here and be pretty sure that that we made a good decision. Here on the small blind, we'll 3-bet against the reg. He opened the small blind, so let's see how much is he opening. So he has steal. We go to the steal pop-up to see how much is he stealing from the big blind. So from here, not from big blind, from the button. So he opens button 50% of time, and he folds versus re-steal 57% of time, and the raises 19. But this stat is not really accurate, because it's a total fold versus re-steal. And in my personal HUD, I have a little more precise data. So if you look here, he opens button 50% of time, but he's 4-betting only 14 here. So if I see 14% out of 50 is around maybe 6% of hands. So 6% of hands he's 4-betting here. And when he makes a 4-bet, and especially such a big 4-bet, so 3 times a 4-bet, not to 8 or 9 or 10 euros, but to 12 euros, I'm pretty sure this is for value. So he probably has some bigger overpairs than mine, or maybe ace king when we are flipping. So there's no reason to gamble here, even though we are in the steal positions and we have a pretty good hand. We can just fold here and not gamble too much without the reason. And this is our last hand for this video. Here we have 2 jacks. There is a open from UTG. There is a 3-bet from the reg. We are opting for actually this is limp from the UTG, open from the reg. We are opting for a 3-bet here, so we can isolate only the reg, or to pick the pot before the flop. And then we face a cold 4-bet from the small blind, also from the reg. So this guy is a reg. Let's see, his cold 4-bet is only 2%, so that's aces, kings, and queens. And with jacks, we are not good enough here to call, so it's just an easy fold pre-flop. Against some other really aggressive player, we can just stack off here or call here, but against somebody who is called for betting only 2% of hands, there is no reason to get crazy with these two jacks. We can just fold here and wait for a better spot. So this was one really basic video about stats, and I hope you learned how to use stats, how to get some edge on your opponents with some extra information you can get. If you have any questions, you can post them in the comments, and if you already did not check the article about all the stats, you can see also that in the description. See you in the next video.